On behalf of GLODEM and AI CSSL, I would like to welcome you all to the fourth seminar of the AI and CSS Seminar Series of Spring 2021. Today we have a truly exciting talk by Ergi Şener with the seminar titled How AI is Eating the World, which we are very much looking forward to listening to. Before I give the floor to Ergi Hoca, I will also briefly introduce him for those of you who are not familiar with his work. Ergi Şener, who is actually indicated as one of the 20 Turkish people to be followed in the field of technology and listed in Fortune Turkey 40 under 40, received his Bachelor of Science degree in Microelectronics Engineering in 2005 and double MS in Computer Science and Management in 2007 from Sabancı University. He is pursuing a PhD degree in management at the moment. Ergi Hoca began his career as the co-founder and business development director of the New Tone Technology Solutions in 2007 with a partnership of Sabancı University's venture program. After the successful exit of this company between 2009 and 2013, he worked at Garanti Payment Systems, Turkcell, and MasterCard Europe. After his corporate career, Ergi Hoca acted as a serial entrepreneur and founded several companies on fintech, IoT, and AI. He was also the managing director of a Dutch-based incubation center. He is currently the co-founder and CEO of a next-generation fintech, Payneer. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. During his career, along with many others, Ergi Hoca received a Big Data Analysis and Data Mining Innovation Award in 2017 and 18, Global Telecoms Business Innovation Award in 2014, and MasterCard Europe President's Award for Innovation in 2013, and Payment System of the Year Award and Turkcell CEO Award of 2012. Ergi Hoca is an instructor at Sabancı University and Bahçeşehir University, and he writes technology articles for Hürriyet, and he also supports startups as a mentor and as an angel investor. Without further ado, I will give the floor to Ergi Hoca. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mini Hocam, for your very kind invitation and for the stage, actually. So it's a pleasure to be here with you, with the precious academicians and the future of our country, the young generation. Also, I see some of my professors, Kemal Hoca, for example, Kemal Oflazar from Sabancı University. He was a legend for us, so it's a great pleasure for me as well. So it's a classic. Let me share my screen and start. So, actually, today I will give you some information about what's going on in the field of AI. As you know, in the academic side, it's one of the most prominent technologies. So we have so many discussions regarding if AI will replace our jobs or which sectors will be disrupted by artificial intelligence. But apart from these issues, there are so many opportunities that are coming up with artificial intelligence and what it brings to us, to our business life, as well as to different sectors. So first of all, before going into deeper, I want to ask the participants some interesting questions. For example, it's one of the most discussing issues in technology, in the field of technology, not only for AI. Who will be in charge when an autonomous vehicle hits a person? So what do you think about that? Who will be in charge? The manufacturer of the vehicle, the owner of the vehicle, the company who is actually developing the autonomous systems, the operating system of the car, let's say. So who will be in charge? What do you think about that?
Please feel free to use the chat box, by the way, for those of you who don't want to unmute themselves. You can do that as well.
Actually, as you know, I think 2 or 3 months ago, Apple officially announced that they are working on the autonomous vehicles. But by saying that, Apple is not the manufacturer of the car, or they will not be producing or manufacturing the car itself. They are cooperating with Hyundai or Kia, the famous manufacturers, as they are actually manufacturing the iPhones. As we all know, from the first iPhone, it's written that it's designed in California but manufactured in China. So it will be the same. So Apple will be the owner of the operating system. So they will be dealing with the deep tech. So they will focus on the big data analytics and AI and the IoT part that will run the autonomous vehicle. But they will be cooperating with traditional automotive makers. So I think 1 or 2 years ago, Uber also is one of the companies that are working on autonomous vehicles. One of the first Uber autonomous vehicles hit a woman, and actually, unfortunately, the woman was died. So this question was discussed in those times, and also it's still one of the missing regulation parts in this field. Apart from that, second question: do you trust a robot or a human doctor for your operation, or for your beloved one's operations? So I believe that some of you will prefer robots, and still some people will think that the humans will be better. Actually, I think 2 days ago, I saw this in Instagram from the Forbes sharing. It's written that while some tasks will be automated in the future with AI, some things will work better with a compassionate human completing the task. So I also believe that, actually. I think that AI will be a great complementary for all our works. So we should actually think about how to get benefit from the AI capabilities, or how we can increase the outputs of what we are doing with the AI-based systems. So it will be much more important thinking in that way. So another question, another famous question, is regarding the data and privacy part. I think some of you also heard that Apple, they finally admitted that their Siri, the Apple's smart assistant, Siri AI technology has been quietly breaching your privacy and listening to everything around you. So Apple says it's because of to improve the experience and capability of their smart assistant, Siri. However, this is an invasion of privacy and insight to users who trusted them, who are losing their trust. It's not only the Apple, actually, also Samsung, the technology giant Samsung, they warned their customers to avoid discussion personal information in front of their smart TVs. So again, we should be careful while thinking about the privacy issues, because I believe that we don't have any privacy with the increasing capability of AI-based systems, unfortunately. So again, yesterday, I saw this from Tech Insider's sharing. It's saying that Google is facing billion Supreme Court case over claims it secretly tracked iPhone users' internet activity. So if we have a chance to track something or to get some personal information, I believe that all the tech giants, they have the capability to do that, and they increase their data so that they sell all this personal data to their customers. So there's a very famous saying, if we are not paying to the service or to the products, then we as the users are the customers. So in the famous Netflix series, The Social Dilemma, it's actually told in a great way. So we should be very careful about using these technologies also. Again, a funny sharing from James Franco, a famous actor. He's saying that my wife asked me why I spoke so softly in the house. I said I was afraid Mark Zuckerberg was listening. She laughed, I laughed, Alexa laughed, Siri laughed. So we can laugh, but it's the real situation. As I mentioned from the Apple's administrations or the Samsung cases, there are so many technology providers that are tracking our personal information without our know-how or without our permission. So, is giving AI the ability to improve themselves harmful to humanity? Again, it's one of the most discussed issues. Facebook AI robots projects were shut down after they start talking to each other in their own language. So you may heard about that issue. Facebook actually told that it's not the real case, but many of the people in the technology sector, they think that the robot-based systems or the smart AI assistants is going in that way. So we should be careful while we are also developing or improving these systems. I have a problem with the presentation. Sorry for that. So it's a recent news. So currently you can have the option to talk to digital Einstein. I think an Israel-based company created the digital version of Einstein. And after a century, Einstein picked up the Nobel Prize. They created this digital twin of Einstein. So you can have the option to talk with him, to try to answer his questions, or Einstein makes a quiz for you. And you can have a small chat with this genius professor, let's say. And according to a recent report by World Economic Forum, it's estimated that 5 years later, there will be AI-based assistants in our board of directors meetings. So it will not be a humanized robot. So the AI system will not be sitting in our meeting rooms, but instead they will be giving some advice, or they will be actually, we will check our decisions with these AI-based systems in order to have much more accurate results, or in order to solidify our decisions. So I strongly believe that there should be these AI-based assistants in order to direct us, or in order to check our systems. So Amazon Go is one of the most invested projects of Amazon, the tech giant. So as you know, Amazon, they have huge budgets, but Amazon Go is one of the most important projects based on their current strategy. So let's have a quick watch their system, and we will continue.
4 years ago, we started to wonder, what would shopping look like if you could walk into a store, grab what you want, and just go? What if we could weave the most advanced machine learning, computer vision, and AI into the very fabric of a store, so you never have to wait in line? No lines, no checkouts, no registers. Welcome to Amazon Go. Use the Amazon Go app to enter. Then put away your phone and start shopping. It's really that simple. Take whatever you like. Anything you pick up is automatically added to your virtual cart. If you change your mind about that cupcake, just put it back. Our technology will update your virtual cart automatically. So how does it work? We used computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion, much like you'd find in self-driving cars. We call it Just Walk Out technology. Once you've got everything you want, you can just go. When you leave, our Just Walk Out technology adds up your virtual cart and charges your Amazon account. Your receipt is sent straight to the app, and you can keep going. Amazon Go. No lines, no checkout. No, seriously.
So, actually, 20 years ago, while we were in the university and making some projects, so we also had some similar ideas. Our aim is to use RFID or different technologies in order to create Amazon Go-like systems. But the critical point is that, as you see in the video also, AI is not only the technology that can be solved many problems. In order to have such a vision, the supermarkets or shops without any waiting lines or without any cash points, we need to integrate different technologies. We need to integrate different systems. So it's one of the most critical issues in terms of technology right now. So we should think about the convergence of technologies. And Amazon Go is a great example for that. So we see that AI, data analytics, sensor fusion, computer vision, location-based technologies, face recognition, they're all intertwined, and they can act accordingly in order to realize this vision, actually. And sorry for that. What's the current position of AI then in the business environments? Based on a recent survey by Deloitte, one of the famous research companies, they actually ended up with the result that AI is most used for making processes more efficient. Then it's used to improve existing products and services, creating new products and services, improve decision-making, and reduce costs. So as we see, the current focus of AI is for operational efficiency, reduction in costs, and innovation. So it's the current issue in the business environment. So we can say that robotic process automations are the major focus or concern right now. So the business field mainly is dealing with the first implementations of AI. Apart from that, based on the important publication of Stanford University's Human-Centered AI Lab 2 years ago, the first version was published at the end of 2019. One of the most important outputs was that AI speed surpasses Moore's law. And it was saying that AI's computing speed doubles every 3 months. So it's developing so fast. And the time required to train AI algorithms on cloud infrastructure has dropped from 3 hours to 1.5 minutes in 2 years, actually, in 2 years, yes. And training AI algorithms is not only getting faster, it's also getting cheaper if these algorithms are trained in the cloud environment. So again, we see that while we are talking about AI, we should also think about the infrastructure, the cloud-based systems, the cloud computing, as well as data analytics platforms. And also for data security, we should also think about blockchain. So again, all these emerging technologies are converged in this area. And based on the previous version of Stanford University's research, autonomous vehicles were the most invested area while talking about AI applications. And after that, the investment was based on the robot process automation and supply chain management. And also the medical research and face recognition was heavily invested. But due to the pandemic effect, today, the most invested area has shifted to pharmacy based or medical industries. And after that, the autonomous vehicles is still popular as the second option. So there are so many important issues in this report. Actually, it's saying that AI has moved rapidly from the research phase and much more to commercialization phases. So we are in the phase 3 of Gartner's hype cycle, actually. So currently, we have so many different AI-based implications and products or services, and we have started to test these applications. We come up with some feedbacks. So these systems are getting more intelligence and working faster or working much more efficient. On the other hand, still we don't have the data sets for this successful commercialization, and many of the corporations, many of the firms, they don't know how to access this data. That's the reason this year's World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report mentioned that data scientists or data analysts are more important than AI specialists right now, because we need these data analysts, or we need these data scientists in order to work with this data and make this data more meaningful in order to educate or train AI-based systems. So it was saying that it was said that the AI systems are not working as intended in real life. But now it shifted to these systems are ready to be used in daily life situations. That's the reason new ecosystems are in the process to be formed. So these ecosystems include academia, corporations, as well as governments and NGOs, actually. So, of course, while talking about these new technologies, we should also think about their effects, their impacts, and the ethics. The AI ethics is another important area for the discussion part. And this year, one of the most discussed issues was the AI ethics. And still, we are not in a good position in terms of the ethics part. Although the report points out that the field of AI ethics is growing, still many of the large companies or corporations are still disappointingly small in this area, unfortunately. So the growing part again, the AI system seems to be past the Turing test. So many of the face recognition systems or speech-based systems, they cannot be understood if we are talking or chatting with a human or with a robot. So it seems that some companies are very advanced in terms of these kind of developments in specific areas. I will show a video about the Google Assistant's current positions. Google is one of the companies that they are actually claiming that they passed Turing test. But of course, these are for specific issues or for specific areas or for closed loop conversations. In order to pass Turing test fully, we still need so much time, and we still need so much effort in this area. So AI still has a long way to go. We can say that experiences in real life change from what technology can do to what it should do. A good example, I like to share these actually from the Apple Watch, because as you know, Apple is currently disrupting health area with all the information they collect through their devices or through the wearables, which is called Apple Watch right now. 2 years ago, they announced a program, so they collect all the heart rates of the Apple Watch users. They cooperated with Stanford University's hospital and medical team, and currently they are very good at detecting the heart attack before it happens. And in 2 years ago, in one of the Apple Watch new releases, they actually showed how they can secure the life of a woman and her child with this system actually. And currently, they are still working on that, and they added a new sensor that tracks the oxygen level of our blood, so that the oxygen level of the blood is a important parameter in order to understand if you have corona or not. So before actually having a test, Apple Watch says that you may have corona, so that you should be careful, or you should actually quarantine yourself. And it's still an ongoing operation. While Apple is disrupting health business, Google focuses on energy side. So Google actually, in order to train their data set for Google Maps, in order to make Google Maps more accurate, they are taking pictures in real time. So they are taking so many pictures outside of the atmosphere. So while doing that, they understood that they can also measure the effectiveness of the sun. So Google Maps know all our houses or our offices, the location of our houses, so that they started to recommend us to actually change the route system with the solar-based systems. And they measured the effectiveness of using these systems. And they calculated that if you change your solar panel, if you change your panel with a solar one, then you will be saving this kind of amount. And the knowledge doubling curve, actually, it's an hypothesis, but it's one of the most referred hypotheses. And currently, IBM, also with Harvard University, they are referring these hypotheses. It's saying that 1 century ago, it takes almost 1 century that all the knowledge in the world from the beginning of civilization to that day doubles every century. In the time of Second World War, it's actually decreased to 25 years. Currently, it's estimated that it takes almost a year or 18 months. And very soon, in the years to come, it will take around half day. So every 12 hours, the number of knowledge in the world, the total number of knowledge will be doubled. So it's because of the increasing IoT-based systems and the data, big data side. This graph shows us why actually we need AI. So there's not any human brain that can actually work with all these kind of data and come up with the right suggestions or right decisions. So we need AI and data analytics as a complementary part of our decision systems. I'm skipping some parts. Data analytics and AI was also used to fight with pandemic in the first days. For example, the Blue Dot, a Canadian startup example is important because Blue Dot warned of the threat several days before the World Health Organization or the global disease control systems. But since they're a small startup, they didn't care about what Blue Dot was saying actually. But Blue Dot did not only identify that there is something interesting going on in Wuhan. So there may be such a new global virus that existing in Wuhan. But just after they tracked that, they flagged Wuhan because Blue Dot is a company that's working on health-based AI systems. So they are tracking all over the world based on the doctor's articles or based on the new symptoms. And just after the Chinese doctors, they wrote their articles about the new virus, or just after the doctors actually come up with new symptoms of the disease, Blue Dot system in real time identified that. So they flagged Wuhan area, and just after that, they checked the destinations. So they actually tried to figure out the most visited cities or countries from Wuhan. And they pointed out 12 cities. And they warned actually the world that if it's a new kind of virus and if it's a global virus, so we should be careful about these cities, because these cities or these areas will be the first that the virus will be spread. And of course, their voice was silent as a startup, and no one cared about what Blue Dot was saying. But weeks after, and the health organization announced that it's a new kind of virus called COVID-19. And of course, the virus was spread. Out of 13 cities, the 12 of them was the ones Blue Dot mentioned. So if there will be such a global crisis due to a virus, if we can actually understood how to get benefit from these AI systems, maybe there will not be such a global crisis anymore. So AI will control this kind of harmful expansions or spreads. Apart from that, China, although the virus was born in China, the Chinese government was so successful in order to control the spread of virus, and before the vaccine itself, they controlled the whole country. They did it with the help of, again, the data analytics and AI. For example, some of the AI algorithms of Alibaba, an e-commerce giant, was used in order to diagnose the virus. So Alibaba opened all their AI systems for the health industry, for their health sector. So apart from that, they actually use the face recognition systems. Although it's not a very preferred system, the face recognition was used to control the virus actually. And they integrated these cameras, this AI-based cams, with mobile applications and location-based technology. And in real time, they created a color code system. So you open up your application. If you are green, then you are safe. You can actually continue your daily life. You can use public transportation or you can go to your work. But if your color code is red, then it means you are in danger. I mean, you may actually visit the quarantine areas, or you can have a close connection with a virus system, let's say. So you should actually keep yourself in the quarantine areas. So they did it with the location-based technologies and with the use of face recognition. Also, they integrated to WeChat, which is one of the most used chatbots in China. Social messaging platform in China. They integrated a chatbot to WeChat so that the citizens can ask any of their questions and they can get the right answers when just after checked with the reports of the government or with the announcements of the public authorities. Apart from that, again, the physical robots are heavily used right now in Chinese hospitals or in quarantine areas. So the robots, the physical robots assist people in terms of check-in, or they can be used for operational processes. The robots actually clean the environment, sterilize the environment, as well as they can actually carry the meals of the sick people. Also, the drones are used to carry critical medical supplies between quarantine areas or between hospitals. So many of the technologies that we were thinking they are not ready for commercial uses are used, as you see, in order to fight with one of the biggest global crises. And all of them are based in AI technology. So also the over-the-top players like Google, they opened their Deepminds, the deep learning platform of Google's AI platforms. They opened the Deepmind in order to serve for the health industry again. And they use their platform in order to understand the proteins that might be useful to actually have a solution for the virus. Or they tracked the academic articles in order to find a solution again. So some famous use cases. Actually, it's again from the Stanford University. One of the researchers in Stanford 6 years ago, in 2015, Dr. Kosinski, he announced his study, and he told that by examining the Facebook profile, your demographic information, your network, and your comments, as well as your likes, the system can have a better understanding about your decisions or your choices better than anyone who is very close to you. So it can be either your family members or spouse or your best friend. So just after analyzing your profile with 300 likes, the system will have a better understanding about your choices. And 1 year after this research, what happened? Trump was selected. So again, all we know that with the Cambridge Analytica, even in the elections of the US president election, in the Brexit elections, the system had a great effect, actually. We shouldn't say that Trump was selected with the help of Cambridge Analytica, but it's obvious today that these AI-based systems had a great effect. The Facebook's 10 years challenge. Actually, I think some of you maybe experienced this. So we were actually putting our picture 10 years ago and the current picture. So it was a funny experience. So it became viral very shortly. But then it was understood that this sharing was triggered by Facebook itself in order to support Facebook's AI systems, in order to support Facebook's face recognition algorithms. So we, as the users, support or help Facebook in order to develop or improve their systems, their AI algorithms. And just after 10 years challenge became so popular, we came up with Face app-like applications. So these systems show us how we will be looking 20 years later. So it's not actually such a thing that it's interesting, but this should be think in a chronological way. So the sharing economy, one of the most important economy models today, depends on AI again. So there's a balance. So it's based on the crowdsourcing, and all the systems are based on AI. Let me give you one example from Uber. For example, Uber in Sao Paulo, one of the most crowded cities in the world, much more crowded than Istanbul, actually. So by getting data from 500 vehicles, 5,000 vehicles, they analyze the data based on their location and based on the network quality, and they are selling these reports to mobile network operators, because still one of the biggest problems of mobile network operators is to find the areas where their network quality is not so good. So with the mobile data they actually took from all these mobile vehicles, they actually created an AI-based systems, and in real time they can actually have this data, they position the places, and they can sell to mobile network operators. In some countries like South Korea or in Japan, they also cooperated with municipalities and they sell the data actually they collect from the places where their infrastructure is not so good. They reported these places in order to make them better. Getir, actually, I worked very closely with the founders, with the co-founders of Getir, because Bitaxi and Getir co-founders are the same, and I was involved in the payment integration of Bitaxi, and it's the same in Getir actually, the MasterPass. It was one of the first MasterPass implementations, and luckily, before they announced Getir, they shared this idea with me, so I was lucky actually. But let me ask you, how Getir has become so successful? What's the reasons? What are the major issues in order to make them so successful, or in order to make them so competitive?
I think they're very fast, and also they're offering great promotions.
Mm-hmm. Being fast is the major value proposition, right? So they claim that they can bring anything to you. I mean, they can bring your orders within 10 or 15 minutes, wherever you are in Istanbul, in such a chaotic city. So how actually they succeed in that? The reason Getir has become so successful is, again, using data and AI. So they collected all the data from Bitaxi for years. So they have all these Bitaxi data. So they know that how many minutes it takes to go from one place to another in thematic days or in rush hours or in specific time periods. By analyzing this data, by optimizing this data, they decided how many motorcycles they need, or they decided where to open the fixed warehouses, or how many mobile warehouses were needed. And they actually showed that some unicorns can also be raised in Turkey. So it's good for all of us actually. One of the most famous covers of Economist that was published in May 2017, it actually shows all the important technology companies in a oil refinery. The reason is that there's a metaphor they are using. The data is actually shown as oil, and the major title is the world's most valuable resource. Actually, the reason, let me show in this way, the reason they showed all these technology companies here is that the amount of data is not a major criteria itself. So we may have so many data, but we also need to find ways in order to analyze this data. So analyzing data, getting some insights from this data is much more important than the size of the data actually, or the volume of the data. The second issue is, centuries ago, actually, the oil companies were the most successful or the most important companies in the world. But now the technology giants, they have become much more successful with their data. And do you know the Google's Blue story. Actually, Marissa Mayer, who was one of the first woman developers of Google, one of the first developers, then she became the CEO of Yahoo. It's a real story that was actually told by Mrs. Mayer. She told that in the first days of Google, the founders locked her door and they requested her to select the Google Blue for their logo and for their icon. Actually, because the reason they requested her suggestion is that they didn't select from two kind of blues. So it was easy actually. She may select one of them, but since she thinks analytically, she actually formed 40 different versions between these two blue colors. And she made such a A/B testing. So she spread these 40 colors to 2.5% of the users. Then she tried to get their insights. How many users actually selected that color, or how many hours they spent in the platform. And based on the results, she selected the color. And this color that was registered as the Google Blue is selected in that way. So the methodology we should use in order to get benefit from our data is very similar to design thinking. Design thinking is an important tool for innovation management also. In design thinking, we should start with empathy. So we should try to understand our consumers. We should actually put ourselves in the shoes of our consumers and try to understand their pain points. For the data part, we should also identify the problem, then ask questions. We should assess our data. If our data is not enough to solve that problem, we should collect or ingest our data. We should analyze them, and it's a continuous process. So it's very similar to design thinking, as mentioned. Smart speakers or smart assistants is one of the most important use areas of AI right now. So as we saw in the Kosinski, Dr. Kosinski's research, only based on the written Facebook analysis, the system understood us, our personal character or personal traits better than any human. So today we have Instagram, so we have image-based social networks. We have TikTok, the video-based systems. We have Clubhouse that gets our voice. So all these systems are becoming much more clever. And today it was officially announced that we know that Clubhouse, they are cooperating with the smart assistant providers like Amazon Echo or like Google Assistant or like Apple Siri, as you see in this slide, so that they actually increase the capability of these smart assistants. So let me show you one funny video. IBM Watson, they are doing some product replacements in some famous series. One of them is from Canal Cruise in France, called the series Young Pope.
There's a new pope in town, His Holiness Pius XIII, and he has his own series on Canal Plus, The Young Pope. Different, unconventional, iconoclast. He decided to show the world how modern he is, not by shouting it from the balcony of the Vatican, but rather on social networks, by addressing in particular the millions of sinners to be found there, and by replying to each of their posts in real time with witty answers and quoting only the Bible.
Stephen, just shut up and go fuck yourself.
Love each other in the same way that I have loved you. John 15:12.
Trump just called Clinton a nasty woman. Bitch seems more appropriate.
Avoid all perverse talk. Stay away from corrupt speech. Proverbs 4:24.
But since this man is not a god, just a pope, and since he has to answer millions of people, we gave him a digital aid in the form of an artificial intelligence, shaped in his image, powered by IBM Watson, and baptized Amen. It knows the 39,000 verses of the Bible as well as he does, thinks like him, and is as compassionate and humorous as he is.
Freshly arrived pizza, time to feast.
But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind. Luke 14:13.
Flagrant foul on Ronaldo. Is the referee fucking blind?
Be silent, and I will teach you wisdom. Job 33:33.
Just run 10 kilometers in 50 minutes. Who's the best, losers?
Do not keep talking so proudly or let your mouth speak such arrogance. Samuel 2:3.
Practical when you're dealing with millions of people. 1 million replies generated by our artificial intelligence. 4 million people reached. The best launch for a series in France. Not bad, right?
Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Ecclesiastes 12:8.
So IBM is doing this kind of advertisements in order to claim their AI is getting clever and clever. So they also made a research actually, and they are saying that IBM Watson can be used as a AI as a service for the lawyers instead of using physical lawyers. The Watson's platform can give much more accurate results. So it will be used as an RPA-based lawyer platform. So the young lawyers, the danger bells are ringing for the young lawyers actually. Amazon Web Services, they also studied on the most popular machine learning use cases, and they come up with the result that fraud detection, content personalization, marketing campaign modeling, customer support or customer recommendation systems, churn predictions, and document classification are the most used areas in terms of machine learning use cases. For the smart city part, again, data analytics and AI have a very critical role. So beginning from 2013, the Los Angeles municipality, they integrated IoT systems for all the traffic lights. The systems identifies the traffic jam, and the optimization systems, they actually suggested the timing of the lights actually. So the lights can be changed dynamically, and it increased the traffic for more than 16%. So it became a huge success. Apart from that, one famous example from Moneyball, it's a real story, and Brad Pitt actually, in the Moneyball, it became such a Hollywood movie. So it shows how AI can be used in order to create a team, a winner team. So how we can maximize the capacity of our employees or our athletes. So still this team that understood the importance of statistics and AI has still the records in terms of the winning. Yonkibu is a startup, it's a fintech startup from China. As you know, in order to give credits, we need such a credit score. So in Turkey, we have, for example, KKB, the Credit Card Association. Apart from that, Yonkibu came up with a very different vision. They told that they can create such a risk scoring system by analyzing the mobile usage of the consumers. So they actually track which applications are used by that consumer, or if there are so many missing calls what percent of them will be turned back. So based on such a new scoring part, they give microcredits, and it became so successful. Let's talk about art, actually. So this guy is the Rembrandt, one of the most famous painters in terms of art of history. And he's one of the best painters in terms of also portraits. Again, let me show this as the final
One of his great
slides. So some good universities of Netherlands cooperated with Microsoft in order to show if Rembrandt was living, what can be such a new painting of him.
And in many ways for all time.
At ING, we believe in the power of innovation, what it can mean to people. We want to bring this innovative spirit to our sponsorship of Dutch art and culture. We knew that for this challenge, we needed to team up with experts from various fields to make this come to life.
We're using a lot of data to improve business life, but we haven't been using data that much in a way that touches the human soul. You could say that we use technology and data, like Rembrandt used his paints and his brushes to create something new.
The first step was to study the works of Rembrandt in order to create an extensive database. We gathered the data from his collection of paintings from many different sources, including 3D scans and upscale images using a deep learning algorithm. Because a significant percentage of Rembrandt paintings were portraits, we analyzed the demography of the faces in these paintings, looking at factors like gender, age, and head direction. The data led us to the conclusion that the subject should be a portrait of a Caucasian male with facial hair between 30 and 40 years old, in dark clothing with a collar, wearing a hat, and facing to the right. From there, we started to extract features only with faces that were related to that specific profile.
We had to create a whole painting from just data, and we used statistical analysis and various algorithms to extract the features that make Rembrandt Rembrandt.
We took parts of the face and we started to compare them. And then based on this, we're able to create a typical Rembrandt eye or nose or mouth or ear. After generating the features, we were focusing on the face proportions. We used an algorithm that can detect over 60 points in a painting. We were able to align the faces and to estimate the distance between the eyes, the nose, and the mouth and the ears.
A painting is not a 2D picture, it's 3D. You can see the canvas, you can see the process, and that's what makes the painting come alive. A height map is essential to make the painting a painting.
We incorporated the height map into the painting and printed on a 3D printer that uses a special paint-based UV ink. It printed many layers, one on top of the other, which resulted in the height and texture of the final painting.
It's sometimes a magical moment to see a painting for the first time, even if it's computer generated. For me, it is something special. I would have believed if I saw it in a museum that it would have been a real Rembrandt, just one I haven't seen before.
It will be interesting to see Rembrandt looking at it. He will be happy that there are people trying to understand him and trying to create something out of that. So I think he will be happy.
The next Rembrandt makes you think about where innovation can take us. What's next?
So Elon Musk is saying that if you have small children, direct them to art or sports because AI will do any work better than humans. But as you see, AI also is used in order to make some new paintings. So AI can be an actor, a major actor in terms of art or sports also. So if you wish, we can stop here because I also want to have your feedbacks and your also questions. So I think it will be good to
Thank
take
you
your...
so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Hocam, for this highly informative and very comprehensive seminar on how AI is eating our world. I'm pretty sure we have a lot of questions, so let's open the floor for questions and comments. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask, but you can also use the chat box. We already have some. I'll just read them out loud for our audience watching the recording of the seminar. So starting with Arif Akkan's question, we have some I think answers to the earlier questions you asked during the presentation. So if our students or our audience who would like to restate them, please type them again so I can go back to those. Starting with Arif Akkan, can we use this technology, referring to the Rembrandt bit that you just showed to us, to create a modern Rembrandt painting like modern hats and clothes? That's the first question. And then Alperen Demirci is asking, talking about all these capabilities of AI, it seems genuinely fascinating to me. However, I have a big concern about this technology, which is mainly about the dark side of humans. There was a scandalous situation at the time the former US President Eisenhower put forward. Military-industrial complex. In short, military industry, sorry, excuse me. Military industry companies encourage countries to adopt aggressive policies in order to make more sales. And when we talk about AI, we are talking about the future of full automation. We're talking about the benefits of fully self-driving cars and the analysis power of AI. However, it does not make sense to think that fully autonomous AI technology or the massive analysis power of AI will not be included in the military industry. So going back to the situation that Eisenhower mentioned, do you think the development of all these things will drive our world into chaos or vice versa?
Yeah. Thank you very much to Arif and Alperen. These are real perfect questions. Let me first begin with Arif's question. Actually, it's a great suggestion, I think. So, and it can be something different. So it can be such an innovation. So we should think about the way we learn from Rembrandt to be used for modern retail, let's say. So it's a very good suggestion, by the way. And if it can be realized, it can be a new innovation, as mentioned. As we saw in the video, the systems learned all the details, how he created the noise, the mouth, or the eyes actually, or the other part by analyzing the face geometry. And the system gets all the details. If we have related data, if we have related data set, then we can actually create instance, let's say. So we can make something as if we are making like Rembrandt, but of course by adding new items, like by understanding the new trends, by understanding the new fashion systems, it will be much more interesting. Actually, I think 4 or 5 years ago, just after I saw this Rembrandt AI project, I recommended this project with some corporations, such a specific project actually. So my suggestion was positioning Osman Hamdi Bey, one of the famous Turkish painters, and let's make a new painting of Osman Hamdi Bey, because Kaplumbağa Terbiyecisi is one of the most known, one of the most famous Turkish paintings. So let's make something like new kaplumbağa terbiyecisi. But just after getting into details, I observed that it's not like Rembrandt, because Rembrandt focused on portraits. So he had so many, he left us so many data that we can observe based on these portrait-based paintings. But Osman Hamdi Bey had a different philosophy, because with that painting, he actually tried to make us understand the role of elites in Turkey, or the role of instructors, and the understanding of the people. Actually, there are so many great metaphors. So in order to make such a new painting of Osman Hamdi Bey, AI is not enough for itself. We need to understand the historical conditions of Turkey in that time frame. So we need to analyze the expectations of the country, or the expectations of the civils, let's say. We should also we should analyze the situation in terms of philosophical ways in somehow. So it needs different disciplines in order to make something new with the use of AI. So I think in order to use AI in terms of art or in terms of social disciplines, needs such a transdisciplinary approach, actually. So, but again, the question was great. So if AI is used to analyze the past artists' works and add some new inputs, it will be a good idea. Apart from that, based on the second question, the military issues and how AI can be used in the military, as far as I remember. Actually, AI is also heavily used in military today. So, for example, many of the borders are secured with drones or with autonomous systems. Turkey is also one of the advanced countries in these systems, actually. So there are so many systems, AI-based systems, that are heavily used for military issues. But the question is right again, or the comment is correct. We should actually find ways in order to filter the development of AI, let's say. So if we can control AI, then of course it will be dangerous for humanity, for our future. That's the reason many of the academicians or many of the important technology experts like Elon Musk, like Bill Gates, or like Stephen Hopkins before, they actually invested based on their personal budget. So they formed some corporations in order to control the development of AI. And Elon Musk always shared his concerns about these developments. That was the reason I actually mentioned about the Facebook robots. They created a spatial language. Of course, if we can't control these developments, then our future will be dangerous.
Thank you so much, Ajahn. We have a lot of questions in the chat box, so maybe just we can start with a pool of 3, and then we can move on to the rest. So Batuhan Tameruslu is asking, you mentioned blockchain technology during the presentation. Except for cryptocurrencies, are there any other possible areas to use this technology? That's his first question. And secondly, it's a very general question, but how can AI be used in politics and governance in the future? A question linked to the earlier question Alperen asked, Barışcan Karabiber is asking, As Alperen said, capabilities of AI are fascinating. Today, we're taking advantages of AI nearly in all aspects of our lives. But can you think of some various areas where AI won't be used even after 50 years from now? Arif is thanking you for your answer, and he's saying, I wonder whether the capabilities of AI will make everything extremely scalable. For example, would a modern Rembrandt AI take jobs of painters? If that happens, will it be an industrial revolution, and or should we fear it?
Okay.
Maybe we can first answer these and then move on to the next question.
Of course, sure. So let me remember. So blockchain, except for cryptocurrencies, are there any other possible areas to use this technology? You mean how to combine with AI and blockchain, as far as I understand. So it's very general question, but how can AI be used in politics? Okay. So let me start with the second question by referring to Putin. So Putin says that the country who is number one in terms of AI will rule the world. So he's a very famous quotation like that. And he's saying this to his developers. So he attended a conference with the participants from universities, with some great developers or the scientists. And he says that we are not going very well in terms of AI. US and China, they are better than us. So he pushed his scientists and researchers in order to be more focused on AI. So currently, AI has become such an important strategy for the governments as well. So it should be positioned in a governmental base from the biggest picture. So on the blockchain side, as mentioned, blockchain has a great place in the AI systems because AI needs data, and in order to provide in order to secure our data, we need blockchain-based technologies. Pelin Hoca, of course, knows this better. He's an expert in this area, but I believe that blockchain is much more than cryptocurrencies, and its usage in terms of the security part will be much more disruptive. So what I'm saying is every time, for example, we are selecting muhtars. So, or we have notary. There's a role for a notary, which is a critical role. With the blockchain technology, there will not be need for this kind of jobs, actually. So it will reduce the third parties in these systems, and the smart contracts will have an important part. So the blockchain's position in terms of AI will be mainly on the security issues. So Barish's question was, the capabilities of AI are fascinating. Today we are taking advantage of AI in all aspects, where AI won't be used even after 50 years from now on. Various areas. Yeah, it's a good question, actually. So I don't think so. So in every field, there will be some use cases that we will face with AI in 50 years. Not only, I mean, after 20 years, 50 years is a very long time frame. I believe that within 15 to 20 years, in every sector or in every area, we will face with different use cases of AI, because there are really diverse usages of AI, actually. So Arif, I wonder whether the capabilities of AI will make everything extremely scalable. For example, will modern Rembrandt AI took jobs of painters? It seems so, but we should think in that way. For example, Apple made an announcement 2 weeks ago. They introduced their new iPads and new iMacs. And it's a recent announcement. They shared so many or they referred many times to machine learning. They told that their cameras are developed with the most advanced machine learning algorithms, and by this way they have better images, or the camera system understands the pictures and it actually shapes some missing parts. So they have this kind of usages. So it shows that still we are in the machine learning part. So whatever we are telling about AI is 90% or more is machine learning. So there will be so much way in order to come up with deep learning algorithms. As you saw in the presentation, I mentioned Google Deepmind platform. It's one of the most invested deep learning platform. They have resourceless budget, let's say. They have limitless budgets. They have limitless resources, but still they don't come up with a solution for coronavirus. Or actually, we don't have systems. We don't have smart assistants, for example, that we can have a daily conversation as if we are talking with our friends for more than 10 minutes. If you can actually do that, Amazon can pay you $1 million. So still their competition is open. Amazon, they open such a contest in order to increase the capability of their Amazon Echo, their smart speaker. So if the developers can come up with such a AI system, so if you can actually communicate directly with Amazon Echo for more than 10 minutes without any delay, or if you like that conversation, then they give you $1 million. So it seems that there is so much way to go. We are seeing some fragments right now. For example, these giants, Google, Apple, Amazon, they are showing some fragments to us. But let's go back to the first parts of the presentation. Some parts from the Stanford University's human-centered AI research. We just shifted to the commercialization phase. So again, let's think about the Gartner's hype cycle. There are 5 steps in this hype cycle. We are in the disappointment phase, which I believe is the most important phase, because we learn a lot from the feedbacks, because these systems are just in our daily usage right now. So we actually get feedbacks of the consumers, we get feedbacks from the ecosystem players, and we are fixing the missing parts, or we are actually adding more meaningful benefits. And I believe in 10 years time frame, the AI part will be the 4th phase, which will be the production phase, but we still need some time.
Thank you so much, Hocam. Let me read another batch of 3 questions. The first one coming from Demet Tümkaya, who actually happens to be one of the co-founders of Koç University's AI and Robotics Club, by the way. Just thanking you for your presentation. Her question is, we actually discussed these autonomous cars responsibility problem in the previous seminar. That is referring to the seminar we had with Başak Hoca 2 weeks ago, I guess. I'm curious about your thoughts. Who do you think will be and should be responsible? Another question also about the Amazon Go. After all those investigations on big tech companies, isn't that a big problem about privacy? Can we foresee that these regulations are changing in the way that these technologies can be more free when it comes to personal life? The second question is coming from İrem Bulut, asking, if you look from a business or engineering perspective, who will be responsible for the possible mistakes or intentional wrongdoings of AI? This is very much linked to the previous question, I guess. Do you think that in the future we will have jurists solely focusing on the ethics of AI usage. Do you want me to read a third question, or I mean, these are kind of comprehensive in their nature, so maybe we can answer these two first and then move on to.
I think it will be good. We can continue with these two questions. Thanks to Demet Hoca, actually. I believe that the solution provider, I mean, whoever developing the AI system will be responsible for the accidents or for the problems on the autonomous vehicle side. That was the reason I shared Apple's example. Apple, they are currently, for more than 4 years, by the way, for a long time, they have been investing on autonomous vehicles, but their focus just now is the operating system part. So they are the ones who are actually working on the technology side. And this part changed the paradigm, by the way, because if the operating system will be much more clever, or if we add this autonomous system capability, then the definition of the car is completely changing. From a traditional car, it shifted to an advanced computer running on 4 wheels. And due to this reason, I strongly believe that the developer or the owner of the operating system will be responsible. But of course, it should be such a regulated market. So there will be lots of discussions going on in this field, and we need these kind of questions. For example, Tesla, they have an autopilot system right now, and Tesla shifted this issue to the owner of the car, because Tesla is saying that the autopilot is not a complete autonomous system. So the owner of the car should be careful, although the system is actually carrying the car. So it should be such a combined issue. But just after the vehicles will turn to complete the autonomous systems, then the AI developer will be the major responsible, let's say. On the another question on the Amazon Go side. Yeah, as mentioned, Amazon Go is one of the most important projects of Amazon right now. They are hugely invested on that project, and they have a great team. There are so many people that were hired by Amazon in order to develop this system, actually. And they are in the process of expanding this system. So they open new stores called Amazon Go stores in different parts of US right now. In London, last week, they opened a new hairdresser, by the way, in London. Amazon, they opened a hairdresser, actually. It's a digital hairdresser. So they used AI and AR capabilities. So before you actually decide what to do with your hair, the smart mirrors show you how you will look like just after that design. So before the haircut, you will decide, you will see, you will confirm, and then the human hairdressers, they cut your hair, actually. So the privacy issue, again, we mentioned about that part. So it should be a balance. If we need personalized campaigns, if we need personalized communication, then we shouldn't think about privacy issues. So somehow we miss that part, because today's consumers, they have a huge demand on customization. They want personalized products, they want personalized services. But in order to create these kind of customizations, the companies, they have to collect data based on your choices, based on your preferences. So I think in the future, this issue will be much more clear because the reason I actually say AI is eating the world is like that. AI has started to manage the world. All the social media platforms, they manipulate our decisions, they manipulate our choices without, I mean, without we understand we are manipulated. So the privacy is a big issue, but I don't believe that we have a private life anymore.
Thank you so much, John. We have way too many questions and so little time. We probably will not be able to answer them all, but let me select a couple of them that are maybe not about privacy issues because we already actually spoke about them. But I mean, our audience should not worry about not having them answered. They can, I guess, always reach out and ask if they have questions in mind. So question from Çetiner. What do you think about employment issue? We talked about AI is used in very different areas, from military to health and more. Can AI and autonomous robots take over jobs in the future, which creates a massive unemployment, which I guess is one of the main concerns also of many. So another question comes from Selin Yavuz. What do you think about the areas involving creativity? Do you believe that AI will also be able to create ideas, or will it stay as unique to humanity?
Yeah.
Maybe a third question,
sure.
so we can answer them together. You mentioned, so this is coming from Yağmur Akarken. You mentioned in the example of the lawyer, but these are situations that require AI to interact with humans. For example, a doctor needs to listen to the patient in order to make a diagnosis. The same goes for a lawyer. Every society has its own idioms and traditional sayings. Can AI develop enough to separate and understand them as well? As far as I know, natural language processing has a bit of trouble in this regard, or is AI human collaboration necessary?
Okay, so let's start with which one? Let's start with which one? So on the unemployment part,
maybe, hocam. That's the first one.
The massive unemployment. It's an important question actually, because the first jobs that AI will conquer, let's say, will be the blue-collared jobs. So the blue-collared employees will be in danger when actually compared with AI, because again, the Industry 4.0 concept depends on heavily big data analytics and AI actually. So all these humanless factories, smart factories, will need advanced AI systems, and in these terms, we will not be needing this kind of blue-collared persons. Also today, for the delivery issues, for example, for Getir or for the other couriers, we need humans in order to deliver our products. But in the near future, we will have physical robots, or we will have drones, or we will have different designs. We will have this kind of autonomous systems so that they will be carrying our delivery also. So that's the reason, again, the authorities in technology, they need to form a minimum wage protocol. So, and they are actually suggesting the governments, it should be a regulatory issue for all the governments, because if we can't find some solutions for the development of AI, it will create sociological problems. It will create some problems inside the society, sociological problems also. So we need to develop this kind of regulations as well as strategies. But we may say that not only the blue collar employees are in danger, but as we discussed in the lawyer part, even the advanced lawyers or the accountants or even the ones who are carrying on regular duties, operational works, they are also in danger because RPAs, they claim that they are doing their jobs faster with minimum cost and with all the details. They can, in real time, they can come up with reportings actually. So that we need to invest ourselves, we need to have new competencies while actually working, while we are competing with AI systems, let's say. So we need to invest on our brains, on our culture. We need to find ways to associate things. So innovation, technology, awareness, analytical thinking, these are the crucial competencies of today, actually. So the second question was a limit for AI, I guess. Defne Yapıcı, right?
I actually didn't read that one to make sure we're not being redundant, but I wrote Yağmur Akarken's question on the situations that require AI to interact with humans. So AI-human collaboration being necessary.
Okay. Yes, again, a very nice question. So we are saying cobots, collaborator robots. So the first phase of autonomous systems will be this kind of cobots actually. So they will be supporting our decisions as well as they will be supporting our jobs. I mean, they will be supporting us in terms of what we are doing. So it will be such kind of complementary systems. I also put the Fortune's publication in the slides, you may remember. So I believe that this collaboration is critical. And the other question.
Hocam, if you want, I can read maybe another batch of two questions.
Sure,
if you have maybe like an additional, I mean, because we're already past 7:30, and I guess the large volume of questions really conveys how enthusiastic our audience is about this topic. But obviously we do not have enough time to cover them all, but maybe we can just take one last batch. So Nisa Özer is asking, thank you for your informative presentation. If we turn back to our topic, is AI eating the world? If that is actually true, is it possible to prevent it? Who is capable of stopping AI, government regulations, or individual preferences on not giving up from privacy? Maybe this might be actually a good question to conclude also. If there is a way to stop the AI eating the world or not. So I'll just pause here.
So again, actually, I want to refer to the Netflix Social Dilemma, because in that part, one of the Harvard Business School professors, a lady, she's saying that AI has already started to manage the world. So in our situation, I'm saying that AI is eating the world because on the social network platforms, social media platforms, actually there are enormous data that have collected up to that time, and every day the number of personal data is increasing. That's the reason I mentioned about Clubhouse. So in the Clubhouse, they are collecting what we are saying, what we are interested in, or what are the most discussed points, what are the most important trends, or the fashion parts. And they understood, they try to capture our daily dialogues, our some caps, and some how we can actually shorten sentences, or how the local language is changing the conversation, so that they are actually feeding smart assistants. So apart from that, if we go back to the social media situation, we see that we have enough amount of data, more than enough, and we have very advanced algorithms right now, so that without we became aware of the situation, the systems has started to manipulate our decisions. And the professor, she's saying that the technology companies, the companies who are actually managing the AI platforms, they are selling accuracy. So they need to know us better than anyone, because their actually revenue depends on this accuracy, because they sell our data to the corporations who will reach us through advertisements or through different dialogues, so that they need to understand our choices. They need to understand how we can act if they will present something to us, or they will offer to us actually, and what should be the way when they should actually offer to us, and what should be the language, what should be the communication channel, or which channels should we be reached. So all these preferences are accurate right now. So the social media changed everything, because currently 80% of our time that we spent in the mobile devices are spent in only 3 applications. So the 80% of the time we spent in mobile environment are spent in only 3 applications. And out of these 3, one of them is social media, one of them is social messaging. So think about the data they have. So apart from that, that's the reason I mentioned that I don't believe in privacy anymore, because sometimes we forget, but Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram are the same companies. So I think many of you had a similar experience. For example, in one of my class in Bahçeşehir University, we were discussing something, but it was not a very regular issue actually. So we are talking every time, let's say. So just after a few minutes, I saw an advertisement in Instagram about that topic. So many of you, or maybe all of you, had similar experiences as mentioned. So they are listening to us. So that's the reason I mentioned about Apple Siri. Apple is one of the companies who are very, I mean, who puts privacy, let's say, in top of their agenda. In every of their official announcements, they are mentioning the importance of privacy. But 2 years ago, they apologized because, unfortunately, Siri was listening to us without our permission. So I don't find any of them, how can I say, true or correct. Every of them, actually, all of them, their aim is the same. Actually, they want to collect as much as our personal data, and so they do everything. Her şey mübah bu yolda in Turkish. Unfortunately, it's the situation. So I don't believe in the regulations, by the way. So Apple apologized, and none of the regulatory parties did anything. The only thing is they need to pay something for these privacy issues, but they continue their operation. It's the same for Google. It's the same for Amazon.
Thank you so much, Hocam, for
Actually,
sparing time.
I want to thank you because I haven't seen such an audience with this great quality of questions. So I wish some parts will be useful, because I know that the participants have much more information when compared to me in this area, and they are much more capable. But I want to share a different perspective. I believe, or it will be good for me if I give some different perspective.
Thank you so much, Ajam. This was definitely one of the most informative seminars we've had in the seminar series. We've all enjoyed it very much. As you can also notice in the chat box, we still have some questions left, which I will pass them to you also. But I also invite our audience, if they would like to contact you with these questions or some other questions they may have in mind, they can do that. But with that, we unfortunately are already past our 7:30 time. So I'm going to again thank you very much on behalf of GLODEM and MA CSSL for this fantastic presentation. And again, a big thank you goes to our audience for this really lively discussion session we had with all these excellent questions they raised. And with that, we will conclude the seminar for today. So we're going to have another seminar this semester on the 21st of May. We'll keep you posted about the details soon. But other than that, wish you all a healthy lockdown and hope to see you all soon.
Okay, thank you again. And
thank you.
also wish everyone